Hello, hello everyone. If you're watching this video, it means you're probably about to embark on the first season of Shakespeare's The Hollow Crown. It's the first set of four Shakespeare history plays. Shakespeare wrote, just to give you the 50,000-foot view, he wrote 10 history plays, 8 of which follow a long story arc. Those are divided into 2 tetralogies. The first season of Hollow Crown, which you're about to watch, is the first set of 4 plays: Richard II, Henry IV's Part 1 and 2, and Henry V. The second tetralogy, which covers the Wars of the Roses, covers the 3 parts of Henry VI plus Richard III. But we're going to focus right now in this video on the first set of 4 plays. Now, I'm not going to give any spoilers here, but the reason I'm making this is because I think it's important. You're going to get a lot, although it's not absolutely necessary, you're going to get a lot more out of these plays if you understand the historical background. And what I love about these plays is, if you like Game of Thrones, this is a real-life Game of Thrones. The disadvantage to the history plays is that there's so many characters and they're all related. But if you understand that historical background, then the history plays are a very good introduction to Shakespeare, because you already know the story. If you understand the historical background, you already know the story. And the dialogue, all the these and thys and thous, you don't need to understand every bit of that. You can fill, if you've got the story, you understand the story, you got half the dialogue right there. You can fill in another 20 or 30% through context, and that 70-80% might be enough. You don't need to necessarily understand every word of it to know what's going on. There are certainly some 16th century jargon that's in there, but there are websites that have kind of English translations of the so to speak, English translations of the dialogue. But the reason, my purpose for making this video, again, I'm not going to give away any spoilers here, or at least try as much not to. But my purpose is to explain the historical background behind the plays. I'm going to try to talk about as few plot points as possible. I mean, let's be real. Elizabethan audiences watching these plays would already know the history, so it's not like you really could have any spoilers. They knew, because the history plays, these 8 history plays take place mainly in the 15th century, early to late 15th century, and of course the plays themselves weren't written until over 100 years later. So, but there was enough to, it was short enough time so that, Shakespeare's audiences certainly would have known their history, just like we know U.S. history, just like we know the Civil War in the United States, right? So I mean, it would be the history in these plays would be as familiar to Shakespeare's audiences as the Civil War would be to us. So it's like if you were to watch the movie Lincoln, let's say, but you can't get me. Oh, I hate to spoil things, but the North won the war. Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, that's the type of spoiler we're talking about here. So, it's not like Game of Thrones in that standpoint, but I think you'll see a lot of similarities as you go through this. Okay, enough of that. I'm just going to give a very broad overview here. I'm going to show you a family tree. It's very useful to have a family tree with you. Because to understand all the connections. So we're going to start, I'm going to set up kind of the situation going into the first play, Richard II. So the patriarch of, basically, and I said everyone's related, the patriarch of that family, this goes back to the time when England was ruled by the Plantagenet family. They ruled England from the mid-12th century until, depending on how you think of it, basically until the Tudors came in the late 15th century. So these are basically the latter end of the Plantagenets going into the Tudors. And the patriarch for all this was King Edward III. Now, he came to the throne at age 15. Ruled until 1377, and he and his wife were very productive, shall we say. Let's zoom out a little bit, and you can I show five of his, well, actually only four of his children here. He had 7 sons. Like I said, he and his wife were very busy. So I'm not showing the entire family tree here. Two of the sons died in childhood, and a third, the youngest son, died before these events took place. But actually, if I go to the original, this is a simplified version. This shows all the sons. This guy over here, Thomas of Woodstock, is the youngest son, and I should bring him up because he's gonna play kind of he's already dead by the time the plays begin, but he's still very important. Okay, we're doing a Game of Thrones analogy. Thomas of Woodstock, the Duke of Gloucester, he's Jon Arryn, if you know your Game of Thrones. So Edward III. So we're only going to have four of the sons here. Edward the Black Prince of Wales was the oldest, and he died a year before his father. So when Edward III died a year later, the throne passed directly to his grandson, Edward the Black Prince, his 10-year-old grandson, Richard II, and he's the king when the play opens. And that's how male preference primogeniture works. This is also another very important concept. That's the way succession rules worked at the time. It was first son, second son, third son, fourth son, and then if all the sons were exhausted, then you went to daughters. But each son and his heirs, his male heirs, then each son and his male heirs, and the third son and his male heirs, and the fourth son and his male heirs. So Richard II was king at the beginning. Now, I'm just going to go through some of the other main characters here. John of Gaunt, he's the Patrick Stewart guy. John of Gaunt, the Duke of Lancaster, is the third son. He has a son, Henry Bolingbroke, and okay, maybe there's a minor spoiler. He will eventually become King Henry IV. But he is accusing someone who's not on this chart, Thomas Mowbray, the Duke of Norfolk. He's accusing him of treason. And one of the reasons, which was kind of left out of the Hollow Crown, one of the reasons is that youngest brother I talked about, Thomas of Woodstock, it is believed that Mowbray murdered Thomas of Woodstock on the orders of Richard II. So the actions that happen early in this play, that Richard's actions seem kind of mysterious. Why would he do that? Why would he do that to the two of them? Yeah, there's something going on behind the scenes here. The big controversy, of course. Let me go to some of the other characters. Lionel of Antwerp's the second son. Again, he's long gone by then. So there are 2 of Edward's sons are present in this play. Both of them are Richard's uncles. John of Gaunt, I already mentioned. The other, Edward Langley, the Duke of York. He's the other brother. So there's a scene early on again. John of Gaunt is dying, and his brother is with him. So he comes into the play fairly early on. Now, there's another cousin. So there are 3 cousins here. Henry V, Bolingbroke, is Richard II's cousin. Edward, O'Merle. He's called O'Merle in this play because he's not Duke of York yet, but he's the Duke of O'Merle. These 3 are cousins from three different sons of Edward III. So they're all his grandchildren. They're all cousins by 3 different brothers. So here's O'Merle. He's he's very much on the king's side, and he and Bolingbroke don't have really that great a relationship because Bolingbroke is kind of, he's been away most of the time for most of Richard's reign. He hasn't really been involved. John of Gaunt was one of Richard's main advisors. He remained very loyal. York remained very loyal. Bolingbroke was kind of out fighting in tournaments and stuff like that. Just go a little further down the family tree here. Henry IV has 4 sons, who we'll see later. Well, we'll see them in the Henry IV plays. Henry V, he's Prince Hal, is the Harry, Prince of Wales, in the Henry IV plays. And Henry IV is very disturbed by his son, because his son, Henry V, and we don't think it was this way in real life, but at least in the plays, Henry V, or I should say Hal, put this in parentheses, because that's how he's known in the Henry IV plays. He leads a rather unconventional, or he leads a life that's not really becoming of an heir to the throne. He spends his time, hanging around commoners, not only commoners, but drunks, thieves. Jack Falstaff is a big mentor of him, almost like a surrogate father, because he does not have a very good relationship with his father, the king. And so Henry IV becomes very worried. I'm kind of getting into the second play here now, but Henry IV is very worried about what the kingdom will be like when he's gone, and Henry V, and Hal becomes Henry V. He has 3, Hal does, he has 3 younger brothers, who aren't ordinarily in both the Henry IV plays. You really only see John of Lancaster is the only one that you see prominently in those plays. Thomas of Lancaster, the Duke of Clarence, and Humphrey of Lancaster, Duke of Gloucester, they have very minor roles, both in Henry IV and Henry V. In the second tetralogy, he will become very important. That's what leads into the Wars of the Roses. When Henry becomes king, shortly before he dies, he will have a son, Henry VI. You're not going to see him until the second season, the second group of plays. And I think that pretty much takes us through everything you need to know for now. There's a lot of names on this list. The Northumberlands, the Percys. You're going to see them. You're going to see Henry Percy and his brother Thomas Percy, younger brother Thomas Percy, Earl of Worcester and the Earl of Northumberland. You'll see Henry you'll see him in the Richard II plays. You'll see both of them. This guy's played by a different actor in Henry IV, as is the king himself. He's played by I forgot the guy's. Well, he's played by Jeremy Irons, and Jeremy Irons takes over the role in the later plays. But both of them are going to be in the Henry IV. This guy here is just in Richard II. His brother and his son will come in the second play. Henry Percy Hotspur. They get these guys. They are instrumental in helping Henry IV overthrow his cousin, but they soon grow disappointed. They don't think they're getting the right treatment, and the problem. I mentioned the rules of succession. Henry IV or Bolingbroke takes the throne as Henry IV. Because Richard doesn't have any children, so this branch is out. However, the second son, Lionel of Antwerp, now he's long gone by the time these plays open, but he has living descendants. And these two guys here are compiled into one character, Mortimer, who is argued has a better claim than the Lancastrians. You see this red rose. The Wars of the Roses, the Lancastrians they're called the Lancastrians because they descend from the Duke of Lancaster, and the Yorkists because they descend from the Duke of York. But that's for a later time. But the bottom line is, Bolingbroke is not first in line to the throne. He basically skipped over this branch over here, these two guys here. I mean, there's an Edmund Mortimer. The Mortimer in the Henry IV play is really kind of a conflation of these two guys, Sir Edmund Mortimer, because Roger Mortimer was named by Richard II as his successor, but he died before Richard, you can see, so he was already gone. He's the one whose sister is Elizabeth Percy. They call her Kate in the plays for some reason. But he's the one who was Hotspur's brother-in-law. But of course, he was dead by then. So I think Shakespeare was really referring to his brother and his son, who we'll also hear from later on as well. Okay, I think that clears up everything you need to know for now, at least going into Richard II and Henry IV plays. I tried not to give away too many spoilers, but let's be honest here. It's history. I mean, this is not a fictional story, so some of this is kind of necessary. The particulars of how this happens, you will see unfold. And hopefully you found this informative. Hopefully you have enough of a historical background to get the gist of what's happening. And sometimes, you may need to watch this several times to really get a good appreciation of it. And, people watch these plays over and over again. They've seen the plays before. They know the history, yet they still watch them multiple times. So give it a try. I think you'll find it even better than Game of Thrones, because this is real life. The type of dynastic conflict that's coming. The first four plays kind of set up the big dynastic conflict that's coming in the second set of plays. Those are the Wars of the Roses. That's the big civil war that starts to erupt from this, perceived usurpation of the throne and, different branches of the family fighting it out. That's where things really get Game of Thrones like in the second set of plays. The first set of plays is kind of setting that up. But hopefully this helps. And enjoy the show.